Welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Baldwin, along with my co-host, Jordana Chaffitz, and we are sponsored by Regal Payments and JAC Digital, as well as our studio partner, Office Evolution of Troy. The Self-Belief Podcast is a collection of conversations with people who have great influence in the Metro Detroit business community. We discuss all aspects of their journey to where they are now, including the moments where they've had to draw deeply on their self-belief to achieve their vision. These conversations will potentially make you re-examine your beliefs about business, people, and life in general. Here's a taste of what's coming up today.
And I'll never forget the time we were at the house, and we were doing something, and I don't know, cleaning or something, and she walked up to me and she looked me dead in the eye and she goes, "Hey, I have to ask you something." And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" She goes, "Are you going to start doing what you need to do in your business and in the business? Or are you going to have the conversation with the boys about the life they could have had in 10 years or in 15 years?
Let's explore and scrutinize together as we unlock the mind of today's guests to provide you with inspiration and tangible takeaways that you can choose to apply in your life. Today's guest is Ken Lear, who owns 2313 Inc., a direct marketing and sales company based in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Ken's company is essentially an outsourced sales office for some of the biggest brands in the country. Welcome, Ken.
Good morning.
Yeah, really appreciate you being here. And full disclaimer, 17 plus years ago, I worked with Ken.
Wow.
So I promised not to bring up too much of his private history. But we're going to get into a lot of things from when
Or public.
Yes, from a lot of things from when he started in the company about 20 years ago. And I had mentioned with Jordana in our last episode about going into a business each day feeling energized because there was this unlimited opportunity to grow. And that was one thing that I always enjoy with my time with Ken. Is that still something you want to stress to day one, someone coming in to learn sales in your company? Do you want them focused more on learning the sales or if their mind on, I'm here to grow and my opportunity is endless?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I feel very grateful to be in this opportunity with you, and
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and whatever I can do to help the next generation of people and business, and whether they become entrepreneurs or they're just young in their careers, I'm more than happy to do whatever I can. But to your question in regards to new staff, what I really do when I hire someone in a sales role, I just want to build their confidence. I just want to give them a chance to, get in a position where they believe in themselves. In their first 30 to 90 days of joining our team, we do focus on sales skills, obviously how to interact with customers and customer service type of skill sets. But what we're really trying to focus on is building their confidence, because we know no matter what they end up doing in their career, if they feel good about themselves and they're confident in what they're doing, then ultimately they're going to, do well at it.
Yeah. Now, sales isn't there that expression of success breeds confidence and then confidence breeds success. So you kind of have to act as if straight away. Mm-hmm. When you first started in sales, I know around the same time as me, it was outside business to business, full commission. Yeah. That'll test and grow your confidence at the same time, right? And I think you mentioned that was something you found a bit tough initially.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm originally from South Florida, moved up to Northeast to play soccer, as we know each other very well lately here in Michigan.
Right.
And after my college soccer career, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had a business degree, studied marketing at Penn State. September 11th was 3 months before my graduation day. It was literally my career fair day at Penn State.
Wow.
And so when I came into the workforce, I wasn't. Although I thought that having a 4-year degree, having a double major, double minor, Division I athlete, I felt like I had a lot to offer the workforce. I found out very quickly that it didn't really matter, especially with the times of what had happened around September 11th. And so, I found this opportunity on Monster.com, outside sales. It was full commission. And, having a college degree, I got a lot of heat for that. My mom was like, "What are you doing? You don't have a salary. It's outside sales. You've never done it before." And to your point about being new in a staff, when I came in, I just got a sense of support. get a sense of a community, and I really, obviously, what was interested in working with Michael Sessions, the guy who hired me, gave me this feeling of comfort, reminded me a lot of my older brother, had extreme confidence, a young entrepreneur at the time, and so getting started, I just felt good. I just knew, and you get that sense like you're in the right place. And I got that sense, and so I just gave it a shot. And I told myself that, listen, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is I gain a lot of skills. I crash and burn in the sales industry. But in the meantime, I'm going to learn how to handle my confidence, how to handle rejection. But it was hard. It was hard. I was driving an hour and a half one way to get to work.
Wow.
I lived at my grandmother's apartment in northern Jersey. I remember driving the turnpike wrong the first week, going the wrong way, and I was like 30 minutes late because it's 50 minutes north, 50 minutes south on the turnpike.
That's the worst.
Oh, it was just so funny.
Did you have like free rent, so you felt like you had something to fall back on because you just had commission?
So fortunately for me, I lived at my grandmother's, right? So it was already kind of paid for and things like that.
So good. So like you had kind of like you knew where you were gonna live if you didn't make your commission.
Totally. But I was completely on my own. One of the things my father did, and I'll never forget, is he told me, because I was a December grad, he said, January 1st, you're completely cut off.
Oh, wow.
And so I started in the position with my back against the wall. So I took the role very seriously, and being that it was performance-based, it was commission, like whatever you sold, you made commission on.
For sure.
And to be fair, based on the relationships with clients back then, it actually took 4 weeks for me to get my first commission check.
Wow.
And to be really transparent, it was $46.
Oh my goodness!
For one sale, because it just took 4 weeks to get turned around. Now, the next week it was a few $100.
Okay.
Next week a few more hundred, and obviously it grew from there. But I remember getting that first paycheck, and I was like, "Hell yeah, I got a check!" But in the meantime, my dad was like, "You gonna get paid? What's going on? Normally it takes 2 weeks to get paid. What's going on?"
Oh wow!
And so I got a lot of pressure, but yeah, no, I felt the community. I felt the support. I just felt like I was in the right spot. I wasn't getting really any other options. Pfizer and Merck and all these pharmaceutical companies weren't hiring graduates. They were on hiring freezes just based on September 11th.
Aye.
And so I was fortunate and grateful I was in the right place. And I started getting things down, and I started to grow. And there's a system to training, and it was something I just had to follow, really.
Yeah, I think maybe you can do it even better than me, but the best way to describe the nuts and bolts of what you do, there's large national brands that outsource the face-to-face sales to your network of companies.
Yep.
And you want more offices so you can promote these brands even more. So when someone starts, they've obviously got to learn how to promote these companies, and then you're going to train them how to work and manage others, and then potentially get their own location.
Yep.
And
Yep.
That was something
you know it pretty well, huh?
Yeah,
sounds like it.
And I do know. Obviously, when I started, it's funny you talk about Monster. The ad when I started in 2003, 2004, it was just in a newspaper. It just said, "Do you like sports? Call." I was like, "Well, I'm coaching soccer. I'll give a call." But like you say, that team camaraderie gets you in there. You wouldn't have stuck around for 4 weeks for a small paycheck if you didn't see the greater purpose to what you're doing. And we spoke with a lot of business owners about the culture. Mm-hmm. What do you do, whether it's from the day you interview and make that hire or the first couple of weeks, to get people to understand your culture, and what do you want your culture to be defined by?
It's interesting. Culture to me is everything. And I think it's in any great organization, any great sports team, you'll hear about the culture being created by the coach. But really, in my eyes, culture is what your people do. Right? It's not what you say. It's not how you stand up in front of a group and we're going to be like this. We're going to whatever. It's your culture is if it's disciplined, if it's supportive, then someone on your staff, whether you ask them to or not, they're going to pick up the phone and reach out to someone new in the staff and say, "Hey, is there anything I can do to help you?"
Okay.
"Hey, is there a time that you want to grab a coffee tomorrow? And I'd love to help you with the fundamentals of getting this thing down." And so in my eyes, I try to instill in my people and instill in anyone that I try to help out is it's not what you say, it's what you do. It's, there's an old saying that your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And in our culture, I really believe that our people are great at that, and because they believe in our purpose and our purpose as a business and my purpose as a leader is to help change the world one leader at a time. I feel if we can make a difference in people, we nourish them with information and again confidence and other things, then it doesn't matter what they do for a living long term, whether they work with us or not. They're going to be happy, and happy people are performing people.
Yeah. Now, when you started, you went through the sales process, and I know you did it quite quickly in terms of you got the sales down pretty well, and then you were given more responsibility to train and work with others. And was it within about 8 to 10 months you were at a stage where they handed you the responsibility to be an assistant manager in the office?
Correct.
Okay, so that was quite a quick track, and then within like maybe a year, 14 months, Michael Sessions, as you mentioned, he said you're ready now to run your own office, and you went to Columbus, Ohio. Is that right?
Yeah. So fortunately, the way our model is set up is Michael was the guy who gave me the seed money to start my business, and I moved through in about a year or so, and obviously, looking back on it, it was relatively quick. Others it takes a year or two or longer to learn the process. But it's interesting because when I came into the business, I had no experience, like literally none. And so I think that not looking back on it, someone with no experience actually can learn something a little bit quicker than someone with experience because I didn't have anything to compare it to. I didn't have any skills or anything. I was like, I want to do it this way. They said, talk to customers like that. This is the pitch. This is the training manual. Do this. I said, okay. I just followed it. And I guess, I believe, someone in business in general, one of their kind of secret sauces to success is having a combination of humility and confidence. And I didn't realize that that's what it was. But I was always taking notes. I was smart enough to know that, this guy's a young entrepreneur. He's doing quite well. I just want to learn from him.
Sure.
And having a coach and having someone who's a good example. And I was always, kind of doing that. I would go home. I would type out the notes on my laptop. And I was just serious about getting ahead in my career. But it was about a year and a half, moved to Columbus, and I remember driving the U-Haul truck with my 5 employees to the new location, kind of shaking because I was kind of excited and scared, and I didn't know what I was, I'm about to run my own company at 23 years old. It was awesome. I've actually gone back there because I have offices there now. And it's interesting how, 20 years later, you kind of like have this nostalgia of like, wow, it really did happen. Like, it's pretty awesome.
Now, I know I'm painting a picture of smooth sailing as you run through everything, and I know you continue to do well. But as you opened that company at 23, what were some big errors you made in the first 2-3 months that you were able to correct? But when you look back on them, you're like, I did that.
I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know if you knew this. That's why you're asking. But so keep in mind, we worked with AT&T. We did their small business solutions where we went out to companies that use their service. We helped them get unlimited long distance. We helped them go from met with a business owner and said, hey, you have something called dial-up. Dial-up is not the best use of internet service. We have something that's a little bit better called DSL. And so we would sit with them and negotiate. And the challenge AT&T had, the reason they even used our service was sending the mailer, making the phone call, doing the TV commercial, never really had that business owner make that change or do that upgrade. So by us walking in the door, building a relationship, meeting with Keith and meeting with his team or whatever, they obviously, it's a person, it's more trust. And we were able to kind of move a lot of customers over. So keep in mind, we did that as an office. When I moved in my office, I never signed myself up.
Oh my goodness.
My first phone bill, again, keep in mind, this is back in the day where there's something called local toll, local long distance.
Yeah, you guys are older than me.
Yeah. So there was a cost. So in Michigan, there was a cost from calling Detroit to like Bay City. There's a cost for that.
That's right. I
And
remember.
do you remember? And then there's long distance, which is calling from like Detroit to Chicago. Well, again, we're recruiting, we're trying to hire staff, and I have recruiters calling 24/7. My first phone bill was $1,000 because I never picked unlimited long distance
Oh my God.
for my, for my business. And I remember Michael calling me and he's like, well, remember I told you details will cost you money or details will make you money. And I remember looking back going, and he goes, some more mistakes like this, well, you're just going to be a statistic.
Oh, man.
And I remember just, gulp and turning around and just thinking to myself, well, I mean, the hardest lessons to learn are the ones when you touch the fire, right? You touch the stove. And listen, I needed that. I needed that, hey, little gut check. Like, you're doing okay, but you got to get on top of the details. And so I'll tell you that was probably a hard hit because obviously it's a bank account. We're just getting started and unneeded expenses, things like that. So, but yeah, that was a good gut check.
Yeah. And just so people know, if you haven't done business-to-business sales, and we've talked about, obviously, you manage yourself primarily, and you have to go for ups and downs because there'll be days that when you go out there and you crush it, you do very well. But there'll be days where appointments fall through or
Sure.
everything, and it's like everything goes wrong. What were some of those moments? Do you remember any in particular that really kind of changed your attitude in, okay, talking about details, I'm going to change that so that doesn't happen again? Or was it just a general process of building up your resiliency?
No, I can tell you through my own journey in doing outside sales, there's some businesses that I would meet with, or, I would, you got to farm the business initially. You cold call them initially. You walk in the door and you introduce yourself. You're maybe in a plaza. You're meeting with another, doctor or dentist or whatever.
Right.
And then you meet with some of the neighbors at the same time. But, there's some times when, I would walk in and just say, hey, how are you? I'm just here to introduce myself to the office manager or whatever and have a small little sales pitch. And they weren't very receptive. And they were very colorful in telling me that I shouldn't be there and they didn't need my service or whatever. And, the hardest part for me early in that process and learning that outside sales was I took things really personal. And I didn't have the skin for business. Like I had to build that kind of armor around me to have that self-confidence and that self-belief.
It's very hard. I feel like nowadays, so many people are like, even me, it's like my business is 6 years old and I'm still like, oh my God, that client wants to leave. It's personal. Like, how do you kind of get past that by saying like, it's just business, not personal? Yeah,
great question. I'll tell you, now 20 years later, I have experience, right?
Of course.
But going through it initially, I just think to myself, if with what is happening right now, in 10 years, is it really going to be a big deal?
True.
Now, it could be, right? It could be just a big deal in general. In 10 years, yes, it could be a big deal. And so that's not good. But most of the time, the perspective, it's like law of relativity, like, nothing's big or small until compared to something. Nothing is good or bad until compared to something. I had a conversation literally yesterday with someone in our team, and I talking about attitude and having a bad experience today and one of those days. And I just said, listen, I'm trying to keep it, calm and cool, but there's a lot of things going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in the Middle East that people are not in a good spot, a lot of families, a lot of things that are happening, and you're losing your attitude because a customer was rude. I'm like, come on.
Perspective.
And so again, and I wasn't trying to be, I was trying to be sensitive and know that, hey, people have to grow through those things, and I've been there, but the reality is you control your inner world. The outer world, it's going to come at you, it's going to beat you up, it's going to knock you down, it's going to do a lot of things, but you control what's inside, and there is a moment when something happens, there's a little moment where you have a choice to respond.
Okay.
And a choice to see things a certain way. I just choose to see the good in things, and I know if it's a challenge, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, and it's gonna be something good long term.
That's great advice.
So.
Yeah, about keeping things in perspective. I often tell myself if something's starting to wind me up, I'm like, first world problems.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Move on.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, right? So we are blessed to be in America. I grew up my mom came to the U.S. at 18 years old from Colombia. She came here for the American dream. and I believe my brother and I are living it.
Yeah. I got to meet your brother. He's up in the Boston area still, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, moving on, one thing with you, Ken became a name that I heard. I was in a different office in a different part of the country, I think San Francisco around the time, and you heard of Ken because he not only went to run his own office pretty quickly, he then was able to replicate the model and promote out some people who then ran their own offices. And he was this guy, 23 to 25. He's really got the model down, doing very well. Life's good. You were kind of at national meetings. This is Ken Lear, like the Ken Lear from Columbus. But things kind of hit a rocky patch. I don't know what exact year, right? But maybe 2008. I mean, I worked with you in 2006 in Atlanta for a bit. But I think maybe 2008 to 2010, some of those offices you opened, you ended up having to close them. How was that going from maybe the shining star to maybe someone people didn't mention that much during that period?
Yeah, it was incredibly humbling. And listen, when in business things change, right? There's opportunities evolve, markets change, clients change. You know, the business in general had some bumps, some clients left, and some clients had to adjust. We had to move markets, things like that, and that just happens, right? And that affected us. And more so a few years after that was kind of the biggest pain of my life, which I know you're aware of, you know, in 2010, 2011. Although it was an incredible year for me personally, it's when I got married and my wife and I took the next step, and it was amazing in California. I'd also found out in that time that my mom had cancer.
Right.
And then, within, a year or so, everything went really well, and she had beaten it, and the wedding was a big moment for her. And then pretty quickly after that, we found out it came back. And then between 2011 and 2013, she got really sick. And 2012, November of 2012, my mom passed away. In that same time, as mom was, going south, we found out my father had cancer as well. And so between November 15th of 2012 and February 2nd of 2013, my mom passed away, and then my father passed away within 3 months. At the same time, my wife and I were expecting Brady. My wife couldn't even travel to my mom's funeral because it was just too late. We're in California, they were in South Florida. And February 3rd, 2013 is when Brady was born, literally the day after my father passed. And so you mentioned my company name, 2313,
Right.
February 3rd, 2013. That's the reason I decided to name the company February 3rd. And although I wouldn't wish it on anyone to go through that experience, and although I'd do anything to have them back, I try to do my best to see the good in it all, and I choose to move forward. I knew it, as we're building our family, and as we're looking to build the business, the purpose is to make it better for the kids and better for the next generation. But yeah, I'll tell you, although humbling, the time of offices evolving and changing, again, perspective. It's small,
right?
It is what it is. It's business. You can always make more money. Life, time, you can't get that back. And so for me, it's tough times for sure. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't be who I am without having those incredibly difficult experiences, and be as strong as I am today without them.
Yeah, I'm definitely was going to touch on that because that's a lot to deal with. Though it's been a 4-month period, you lose your mum, you lose your dad, and then Brady's born. Did you feel you obviously you've got a lot going on with the business, but did you really process that at the time, or you just tried to kind of power through it, and then a year later maybe it kind of hit you like a ton of bricks?
Yeah, so great question. I've done a lot of work on it later, right? 7, 8, 10 years later about that whole time of my life. And the interesting thing about it in regards to the business, and to directly answer your question, I just tried to power through. I just tried to focus on, the positives and power through. The reality was 2012 to 2016, my business revenue-wise took a dive. And again, the reality was I was fragile. I was in a tough spot. That I was the leader of the business, and lots of lots of unintended consequences came from me not being, healed. Looking back on it, I wish I would have gone to therapy and done lots of things sooner and got a lot of personal help sooner, because I probably wouldn't have had the revenue years I had for the next few years. But you can see, and literally I looked at this year. The revenue dips and dives and goes really, really south, and then there's this rise from there. And it was about 2017, 2018 when I got through a lot of personal, habitual mantras and how I live my life and my routines, and to just have strength in my day. And then, no coincidences when the business has been kind of taken off ever since.
What were a couple of personal things you changed that you feel helped you in that time?
So, just simply my morning routine. I literally had to sit in the sauna, in the gym as I worked out. So my place of release of stress and of mind and everything is working out, again, being an athlete. So my morning routine is, in my opinion, bulletproof. I get up, I have my vitamin drinks in the morning, and literally it's an emergency. I take a water and I drink emergency, but I do it proactively because I get a lot of vitamins from it. And then I, get the kids ready for school and their lunches and all that. But once I drop them at the bus stop, the next 45 minutes to an hour, I'm in the gym, and it's me time. And I'm filling myself up. Either it's a workout with a trainer, or it's workout in fitness, which I need more of, right. Or just lifting in general. But at the end of the workout, I'm literally as I'm walking to the locker room, I'm ordering my breakfast. It's a smoothie and it's a breakfast sandwich, and I get the same one pretty much every day. And I set it for 30 minutes because I'll be driving by and picking it up from Tropical Smoothie. But then I'm in the sauna. I'm in there for 5 to 10 minutes, and I have mantras that I say to myself, and belief type mantras and strengthening mantras, like just very simple things like I'm confident, I'm strong, I can do this. Like I literally talk to myself. And
when did you start using the mantras?
When I went through all that pain, I was so in such a tough mental place. I had to rebuild myself. I literally had to rebuild the basics of myself, and so I did that. And
So you started doing that in 13, or a bit after you learned to do that?
16, 17.
So you feel that was kind of a few lost years, maybe 13 to 16?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you find them? Did you look them up, or did you say, hey, this is what I want to focus on?
So having good mentors is a key to success, in my opinion. And I've had some people in my life, Michael being a major one, and a few others that I just sat with and I talked to, and I said, hey, listen, and they knew I was hurting. And so in our conversations quarterly or sometimes even monthly, I would ask them for suggestions on how to just rebuild my mind. And they gave me those tips.
Yeah. I know you had mentioned when we had talked before, I said, what would be 3 compliments you would give yourself? Do you remember what they were?
So I emailed them to you.
That's right.
But yes, I've been told, and it's this year I got recognized for 20 years of service.
Wow.
So that's what.
It's amazing.
That came to mind, and things around. I just care. I really do. I really do care about people. I forget the other 2 off the top of my head, to be honest.
You said you have intention.
Oh, intention. Yeah, I show up with intention, and I do. And I show up, and I try to. And again, that's kind of a
Do you think with the intention you talk about going back to your morning and your focus, maybe that 13 to 16 period, obviously you're dealing with the grief, now you're a new dad, and you were kind of floating through things and you just showed up without much intention, but then you kind of grappled that back for 16 and you got the intention.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. And listen, there's a lot of conversations with Sarah, my wife.
Yeah.
And and I can tell you, having a partner that keeps you honest is one of the most important things in life, in my opinion. And the most important decision, in my opinion, again, that you'll ever make is when you decide to, if you decide to get married, is picking the right person. But I'll tell you, right around 17 and maybe even in 18, again, business hadn't been going that well. And Sarah has been, around the business and in the business in a way for many years. And I'll never forget the time we were at the house, and we were doing something, and I don't know, cleaning or something, and she walked up to me and she looked me dead in the eye and she goes, "Hey, I have to ask you something." And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" She goes, "Are you going to start doing what you need to do in your business and in the business, or are you going to have the conversation with the boys about the life they could have had in 10 years or in 15 years? Because I'm not."
It's a reality check.
And it was a dagger in the heart. And because, to be fair, up until that point, she knew there were certain goals that I had to do, certain activities I had to do in my day. And she actually literally made like a big poster board and set up targets.
Wow.
and was trying to help me, without telling me, she's trying to help me get through the things that she knew I needed to get through. And she knew I was hurting, but she's kind of helping me along a little bit. And then finally she was just fed up. She's like, "Are you going to do it or not?" And so, but to be fair, that's exactly what I needed. It's exactly what I needed. And with tears in my eyes, I just gave her a hug and I just said, "I got this." So a combination of all of that and people closest to me kind of being incredibly direct helped me get moving.
Yeah, and your wife, Sarah, she was a top collegiate runner at Rutgers, and she did long distance, so she knows about pushing through. She wasn't going to take your nonsense.
Yeah. To be fair, she was a heptathlete, so
Wow.
a Division I heptathlete.
But she runs a ridiculous mile these days. She's got a few injuries, but she'll show up once a year at a 5K and just go win it.
Yeah, she does. She does. I don't know to be fair, I don't know in the last 5K she ran, she didn't win. So she's a ridiculous athlete.
She's an amazing cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are some of your goals moving forward? You've just done 20 years. Obviously, like you say, when you look back, that's a lot. A lot of things have happened. What do you want to happen in the next 5 to 10?
I'll tell you, I kind of live in my purpose of changing the world one leader at a time. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to create a community where people feel great about who they are. I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, Clear channel, Klear channel. And, I do something similar like you guys are doing. I bring on, professionals and former athletes and just people that I believe are great examples of being great human beings. Interesting enough, I was on a flight to the Dominican last week and met a guy literally sitting next to me who athlete, entrepreneur. His sister is the GM of the Las Vegas basketball team.
Oh, wow.
Who just won the women's NBA championship last night.
Amazing.
The night before. But he's a decorated athlete himself, played basketball, his dad, NBA, done a bunch of things. So, but I bring on people like that to the YouTube channel, and my real purpose, my real deep down, transparently purpose, is to have a place to have my boys see me if, God forbid, anything would happen to me, and have a place for them to get around people and learn from people at the prime of what they do, and successful people, I think, that are great examples. At the same time, I know it helps people in my organization in general that are going through things. I've talked about those tough times in my life. I've had people on that have been through some incredible things. I've had people on that share a ton of skill sets about sales and leadership and mindset. But my purpose over the next 5 to 10 years is, again, just to continue to build that community. Continue to be, I know my example of not just what I do as a business will then, help others in their businesses, because I do a lot of consulting and coaching now. And it's again, your action speaks aloud. You can't hear what you're saying. So people, they don't listen to me unless, I'm setting the pace myself. So I focus a lot on that. But my whole goal is to help my boys be great, have a place for them to see the goodness when they get to the point in their lives where they're ready for it.
It's amazing.
And then continue to pass on what I can.
What would be some advice for the younger generation, like Gen Z? Because everybody says millennials, Gen Z, they're not willing to work hard. What would be your advice?
I think that's something everyone says about the next generation.
Yes.
To be fair. Now, I think in the world you're going to find what you're looking for. So when it comes to talent, people that really act that way, it'll come out in their employment. It's hard to judge a book by its cover.
Yep.
I try to see the good in people in that whole process, but I believe that I think that's something that everyone said about the next generation, to be fair.
People keep saying millennials are not very hard workers, and I'm like, listen, like, I started this business when I was really young, and, like, I made it what it is. I now have 4 full-time employees, and I'm in business a while now, so it's like, I'm actually not a millennial at all. I'm very hard worker, so it's like, and actually, all the girls who work for me are also Gen Z, so I'm always interested here, like, what do you think about the next generation?
Yeah, and so, to your point, I think you're going to find what you're looking for, and those of us that have the entrepreneurial bug, we don't, majority of the world doesn't have that bug.
Yes.
90 to 94% of America works for someone else, right? So if you're among the small percentage of people that are entrepreneurial, that want to grow and want to get ahead, you tend to attract other people just like you.
Very
right?
true.
So, but yeah, I think the world. I think we all said that about the next generation.
Good to
Yeah,
know.
it seems to be, I guess, generational. Whether it's jealousy or ego, it's like you've moved into an older generation. Like, well, they're not as good as we were. It's like nonsense. You know, they do things different, and it's a bit scary. Like in another episode we were talking about. Our parents, like your dad was questioning you at the beginning. It was norm to get a job, get on a good track, probably be in one industry the rest of your life. Yep. Now it's like, try this, do that. Probably you pivot, you go from doing this to something completely different. It's just how business is these days.
If you fail, you get back up.
Yeah, my father worked for the same company for 30, some years before he retired, right? As an engineer, started off as an entry-level civil engineer and retired as a vice president.
Wow.
And so, I think, and what I learned from that was being loyal, right? So it just depends. I think you get what you.
I know. Obviously, you mentioned your dad to me as one. He was a great mentor to you as well as a great dad. Obviously, in that very tough year. Was there any last conversations you had with your parents where they passed on some wisdom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there's small mantras that they passed on to me, whether they were trying to or not,
right.
That I just continue to hear ring in my head. My mom used to say that the lazy work twice. When I'd be in the kitchen and I'd get a basketball and I'd try to shoot it into the trash can and I would miss, and she'd be like, "Yep, the lazy work twice." And again, that just has stuck with me. Another one is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
So when I was trying to build my friend groups and things, and there's some groups that I was a part of that weren't the best groups to be in, she would just say, "Hey, just remember the apple doesn't fall far from the tree." So if you want to be around successful people, she's like, success surrounds themselves with success, and misery needs company.
Yeah.
And so those 2 or 3 came from mom. My dad used to always say, again, being an engineer and kind of being very surgical in his movements, he would say, measure twice, cut once. And so I'd always think about, hey, how much preparation and how much I'm looking at something before I make a decision. And then, there's little things like, he used to make me, he would give me $1 every time I made his lunch. Going through like elementary and middle school and things like that. And I used to always wonder, why he wouldn't go out to eat or why he wouldn't get food or whatever. And later in life, he just explained, he's like, listen, I'd rather spend the time, I'd be at the office, eat food that I enjoy, and then I'd get home earlier so I could spend time with you guys. Yeah. And so that kind of frugal way of living, although I have had my fair share of not being frugal, I've come back to the world of, hey, it's not about what you make, it's about what you save.
Yeah, and a couple of things just to wrap up with you. I mean, I know obviously we talked about 20 years and being frugal at the beginning. You tried to obviously delayed gratification, but now you do things like being a soccer fan. You go to the World Cup every 4 years. You go to a lot of USA games. And what are some traditions you do to reward yourself and reward people in your company these days?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest one. Every 4 years since 2014, I've taken a group of people to the World Cup.
Wow.
Started with Rio de Janeiro, which the U.S. had a good run during that tournament. I think you went to the tournament.
Yeah, I was in Manaus, in the northern part.
Yeah, I remember you sending me the video. And then 2018, went to Moscow and saw some games in Moscow, which is pretty cool. I was at the Germany-Mexico game when Mexico upset Germany, which was one of the biggest upsets, I think, in history. And then most recently, we took a group to Qatar. And I went to 2 U.S. games in Qatar. Was at the U.S.-England game, which I know we talked about. And then the U.S.-Iran game. And to be fair, in Qatar, it was such a unique experience that all the games were in Doha, right? So it was like a ton of stadiums were built. It was all within an hour. So every single day I was able to see a game.
Wow.
So I went to 5 different games in 5 different stadiums in 5 different days. And I don't think that's going to probably happen in our lifetime again. And my brother was there this time. My brother's gone to 2 out of the 3. So that was an awesome experience to have my brother around, plus some people in the business. But what I do is the year leading up to the World Cup is I do a national sales competition for some of our managers, and top performers, top producers get a chance to be a part of kind of a 10X experience, I call it.
Nice.
Where they're going to be, this is something, there's 2 people, Joey and Michael, who are 2 brothers that happen to run offices in our business now. They were with us on this trip. Right, and so it's just something that they're never going to forget their entire life. That 2 brothers, and not me and my brother, and then a few others, were on the trip, and that's something they're going to tell their kids about. That they went to the World Cup in Qatar.
It's amazing that they can strive for that.
Yeah, I do that. This next summer, I'm going to the Olympics, doing a similar type competition, which is cool. Obviously, my wife was a runner, so she's pumped
the
about
Olympics
that.
next year?
Paris.
Oh, yeah, Paris. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think, we do stuff like that every few years. Those are kind of the big ones. Just some basic things we do monthly here in Michigan. Obviously have about 20, 30 people in our sales staff in our office. I do a monthly winner circle where, they have a certain level of productivity. We come up here to, some nice steakhouses and have some good food. But my whole mindset around appreciation is kind of, I understand that what you appreciate appreciates, and so if you go out of your way and give people love and recognition, then others are going to want to get the same love and recognition. So we try to do that and do things that they wouldn't normally do for themselves. Right, someone in their early 20s not thinking about going out and having a $50 steak or whatever. They're just not on their things to do. They're just kind of getting started. They're being smart, and I just try to kind of encourage them and give them the taste of what it's like to get ahead.
That's great. It's a great reward for them.
Yeah, and I guess finally to wrap up, I know you talk about family a lot and being a family man, whether it's under the signature on your email or just telling me. And we obviously family is important to all of us, but the way you talk about it is kind of with a real tenacity at times. Why is family, not why is it so important to you, it's obviously important, but what does it really mean to you, and what do you hope to leave as a legacy for your kids?
I just want to be the cool dad.
Well, that's never going to happen.
I know. That's why I work so hard at it. No, I just, I think, I have peers of mine that as they've raised their children, they just kind of look at their parents in a way with like just a ton of respect and a ton of honor, and kind of like their hero. And I think as a parent now, I think, when kids are young, that's how they look at us to an extent. But at some point, they grow up and they start to realize that, hey, your parents are humans and they have flaws and everything else. And although I have a lot of flaws and a lot of things to learn, I want my boys to be proud.
Yeah. I think it definitely will. It's just too many dad jokes to be completely
cool. The best part is they're telling them now too. So.
Oh yeah. All right.
Especially Mason.
Full circle.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming in and taking time. Definitely check out Ken's Lear, or how do you say it? Is it clear or clear?
Clear.
Right.
Just like clear.
There we go.
To be clear.
To me, it sounds like King Lear. So.
Well, that's true.
And it's spelled K-L-E-A-R.
Okay,
So
we'll add that for social media.
Channel.
Yeah. And if you follow him on LinkedIn or friend him on LinkedIn, he puts a lot of business shorts on there as well, 15 seconds to a minute.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate it, Ken.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
Jordana, let's get to the heart of the matter with Ken today as our guest. Pretty interesting guy. What do you think?
He definitely was very interesting. I was very curious to hear that he went from the commission structure right away and like what he's made of himself, because that's kind of like you have to just jump in. He was so young that it made sense. But like thinking about it now, do you think he would jump in like 20 years later and do that only on commission?
Yeah, because that's what these offices still do. They still have people. And yeah, I'm interested to hear your perspective, because obviously I worked in that business and have known Ken a long time, and I had a certain amount of success in that business, and it's just interesting hearing it from someone, a different perspective. Is that something you feel you could do, or working commission is different? Because ultimately you work commission today running your own business.
Not exactly. So I've honestly gone back and forth with commission. I do have a few influencers on commission.
But you work on commission because you're the business owner.
I guess that's true.
If you don't have clients, you don't have income.
I never thought about it like that, but that's actually very true. Yeah, but my clients pay me monthly, but no, like, you're exactly right. Like, I have to run after my own business, and if I don't have people working with me, then I can't pay my team. I can't pay myself. That's a very good perspective, actually. I never thought about that like that.
It's true. When it comes to commission, it's definitely something you learn. But a lot of people transition into business owners. You have to understand. Yeah, you have to fight for your business. You have to earn it every month, even if you've got them now on monthly contracts. Yep. Those contracts can end. If you don't find new people to bring on or ways to keep people, it's that's the way it is. One thing I like with Ken is he's really grown and developed over time.
Yeah.
And one thing that's always been tough, whether it's sales or other things, and probably every job, if you have stuff going on in your personal life, it's hard to focus at work. And especially running a business whilst he had, all that, unfortunate tragedy of parents dying, but then the joy of a new baby. That's just a lot to deal with. But to be able to compartmentalize that, get through it, and then effectively deal with it, he showed great strength of character.
Honestly, I love that he talked about, like, going back to our themes, of everybody, like he's really trying to motivate his team, and, like, he brings them to, like, those really cool, like, soccer games. I think that's amazing, and, like, the fact that, like, he always sits down and he says, okay, so what can we do better? And I feel like he's the type of guy who's not going to get angry at his team. He's going to say, okay, so what did you learn from this?
We had lost touch for a bit. Then I heard he had moved to Michigan from California, and I reached out to him because I wanted to get back in touch with him. And also I played over 30 soccer at the time, and I was like, we needed another good player.
That's amazing.
It's like, he's now on the over 40 team as well. Any final points, Jordana?
I would just say overall he was an amazing guest, and it really, really made me really think about, like, how I can change my team and make them, like, really want to be part of the team.
Yeah, and I think a takeaway of people is he once he got a morning routine down, that helped the rest of his life and rest of his days. So if you're struggling, feeling like you're scattered and running somewhere, where am I going today? Oh, I got to do this, got to do that. If you can bring some sort of routine to it, I think that really helps. It's something I'm working on as well.
I'm excited for future guests. I'm excited for everything that comes.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, everyone, for taking time to listen. And check us out on the Instagram, on the YouTube now. Anything you'd like to say about our social media channels?
Well, please like and follow us. We're going to have some posts going up this week, and they're going to be fun, and we can't wait to see you there.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.